on.
Welcome to Sibs Read Smut Podcast. I'm Helen.
I'm Ned.
Who are you, Ned? Welcome to the podcast, Ned.
Welcome.
I didn't know you were coming, and here you are, surprise for all of us.
I forgot.
Well, welcome again. This is a podcast, as you know by now, where we read, rate, and review our favorite, sometimes your favorite, but mostly ours, romance novels. And so just a point of whatever, just so you know, I want the listeners to know. If you have suggestions or questions, we are on the socials. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok, Sibs Read Smut, or at Gmail, sibsreadsmut@gmail. So send us compliments only. Otherwise, keep it to yourself.
Be nice, motherfuckers.
On today's podcast, we are discussing Tutoring the Player by Rebecca Jenshak. Ned picked this book, and we have a lot to say about it. Spoilers, we do talk about these books start to finish. Spoilers, everything in between. So just be prepared. So stop and go read it if you want. Otherwise, listen along. And we'll go from there. Ned has a summary that he wrote himself of his own words, his own thoughts. So he'll read that for you now.
Yes. Okay. This is the first time I'm reading through this, even though I wrote it.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. If you were as sexually experienced as I was in college, boning at least 50% of campus, then this book is for you.
Whoa, Ned.
Whoa.
Jeez.
Daisy and Jordan are accidental lab partners and start to spend more and more time together. Will they have chemistry? Question mark? Yes, of course. Will their friends fuck everything up? Maybe. Put on your prettiest party dress, try to remember the rules from all your favorite college drinking games, and get ready for Tutoring the Player by Rebecca Jenshak. The end.
Gosh, Ned, you didn't have to be so explicit.
There was no boning to the sunset. There was no, there was... I mean, and you had not read this one before, so I don't think you knew what you were in for with how open door it was going to be and whatever else. I mean, It was pretty open. It was pretty open door
for a college. Yeah. Well, I get a little weirded out reading these college books. One, because I'm no longer even in my 20s, barely, believe it or not. But so it just seems like a long time ago. Sometimes I'm like, for her, anyway, we can talk about this later when we get deeper into the book. The girl felt very realistic to college. Like she'd had a boyfriend or two, but then he was this connoisseur of cunnilingus. And he was just, this guy was way advanced for whatever I was expecting to see in a college.
But they eased into it. I mean, they didn't even kiss until almost 50%.
I guess, but I mean, there was so much else of the
so
stuff
much other plot going on.
Yeah, there was which actually that probably felt very true to college. She had a crush on somebody else in their lab, with their third lab partner was just his best friend. So there was just a lot, and then her best friend hated him for not a real reason, but
she hated all jocks.
She hated all jocks, which for just a very college thing. She got hurt by a jock, so she was they all suck. And so, you could feel that these kids were 20, 21 years old, and they were yeah, I have really strong opinions on things I know nothing about. So,
yeah. And to lay a little groundwork, this is book 1 of the Wallflower series by Rebecca Jenshak. All 4 of these, what?
Have you read them all?
Yeah, I've read all 4.
All 4? Wow. You read too much.
Boom. And these are all ladies who have trouble getting dates. I guess not getting dates really, but they're not social butterflies, and they tend to stay home. And that's the name of the series, for fuck's sake.
Yes. I'm connecting the dots.
But yeah, I mean, the cover of this book has 2 different versions. One is the cartoony color, or not, cover, I mean, with, a hockey player, and she's sitting on the bench, and, whatever else. Cutesy, right up my alley. And then the other one is a co-ed in, like, a sweater, which you barely see women on the cover of these books. So that was pretty shocking, too. I said, covers have hot girls with a U.
I switched that cover because that was the one that popped up on my Goodreads, and I was like, no, we're going with the cartoon cover. I don't want my friends seeing this, like, bosomy chick like tutoring the player. I was
my next overall note was open door but closed farting.
There was no farting in this book.
No farting, no scatological humor in any way, shape, or form. And you would think with a bunch of hockey players and they live next door to a basketball player house, there would be some kind of pranking or dirty jokes or something like going on. But there really wasn't much going on. What kind of trope would you call this one?
Friends to lovers, absolutely, because they start out as friends. They get accidentally paired together in this. So
forced proximity.
Forced proximity for sure, and then. Yeah, friends to lovers. So she originally has a crush on Liam, this other guy, and they are all friends, and they're all kind of hanging out in this lab, and she tells Jordan, or Jordan figures out that, like, she likes Liam, and so Jordan's like, you should ask him out, like pushing her to do it, even though he's starting to like her, and so that becomes a whole thing. And then he's like, I can't let her ask him out, so he like interrupts her. He's like, will you tutor me? Even though he's a civil engineer and like incredibly smart himself, like does not need a tutor, but he asks for tutoring. Which is that She's All That? Is that the plot to She's All That, the movie with Freddie Prinze Jr.? Like,
no.
He's a smart jock and he asks for tutoring from that girl, right?
No, he has to convert her image to get her to be prom queen or something. And then he falls in love with her.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, I knew the plots didn't quite line up, but there was just enough here where I was like, cool guy, cool jock falling in love with like a nerdy girl. And I can just see the scene where he like takes off her glasses and suddenly she's like the hottest girl in the world. And it's like, all she had to do was take her glasses off. And now she's a Victoria's Secret model. So,
right. Yeah, it was, I mean, there was a lot of weird, like, kind of, he at first is trying to fix his friend, Liam. Liam. He's trying to fix them up together because Liam is the
that's right.
He's the hockey captain, and he's been sucking lately.
Yes.
And we come to find out down the line that he's actually bisexual and been dating a dude.
But he's been sucking someone else.
Yeah. But he was trying to get them together at first, and then he's trying to keep them apart, and that was a very weird kind of pretense for me. I didn't love that. Mm-hmm. But so they get forced together as lab partners, and then he starts realizing, oh, I kind of like her, and he's pressing Liam to ask her out, and then he's just not. And then he tells Daisy to ask him out. He won't say no.
Liam out.
Yeah, and as she is about to ask him, he steps in the middle and then offers this whole tutoring session bullshittery. And it's like and just to spend more time with her and what he doesn't get across at the end when everything goes to shit is that he did it for himself. He didn't do it to keep her away from Liam, but he makes himself look as bad as possible at the end of this book. And 100%. It's like, what the hell, dude? That was so dumb. But when we first meet him, he's like wearing a backwards hat, and it says "I heart MILFs" on it, and like, and he's really douchey. He's a real, kind of like assholey douchebag. And the second time you meet him, you're like, okay, he's not that bad of a guy, but it was like, but also Daisy's a little weird too. She has a treehouse in her backyard that she spies on the cool kids.
Spies on the neighbors.
And it's like, treehouse is cool, spying is not cool. Like, I don't know.
There was a lot of just like juvenile stuff. Well, maybe it's not that it was juvenile. It reminded me of juvenile stuff. Like, it reminded me of of Home Alone, like his treehouse in Home Alone, where he like, goes to get the robbers out, but like he can see everything from there, and that's his like point of view. And so, and Sheila would go up there and draw, and she would watch the parties at the White House next door, which apparently had a full-size basketball gym in it. You find that out later.
Yeah.
And I don't think when they were describing the White House at the beginning, either I wasn't listening or they failed to mention that, but the White House next door apparently is like big enough to have a gymnasium inside. So
yeah. Well, and yeah, it comes out maybe in one of the later books that one of the dads bought the house for, or it's one of the kids is like the school dean's son or related to him somehow, and so they got like this huge mansion, with an in-ground pool in the back, and it's like party central. It's pretty crazy. But I mean, right at first, I was like, it's been a couple years since I've read this book. I was like, Liam, like I don't remember Liam, and then Jordan gets introduced. I'm like, oh right, okay.
Because the first chapter, she's mooning over Liam, and you're like, okay, then this is the guy she likes, and then it's
she's totally wet for him. It's
okay. Accurate, but gross.
Yeah, and I said Jordan's less of a butthole on the second meeting, but he has a lackadaisical approach to school, and he's just like, I want to be friends, I want to be the life of the party, I don't really care about grades. He's like a BC student, and he's a smart guy, so he doesn't need the tutoring that he requests from Daisy, and it's like, that's also pretty an inconsiderate fucking thing to do. It's like he could pass all these tests himself. He wants to spend time with her. He's not honest about it, and he's taking her away from her schoolwork and everything else.
Like pulling all-nighters to finish her shit because she's helping him with his shit. Which also, like, come on, girlfriend, boundaries. Like, do your own shit first, and then if you have time. But so they meet, they become, they finally start hanging out for the tutoring. And when do you said they have sex around 50%? I mean, was there anything else besides like they start the tutoring, and then when do they bone? She goes to like some of the parties.
Yeah, I mean, there's like she goes to her first hockey game. She's never been to one before. They keep running across each other. They have a very flirty walk to the gas station. He almost bangs that girl in the bathroom, Sybil, his on and off again, like session girl. Okay. My notes say Jordan's casual bang. That's 22% in. So like she teases a little bit with a little foreplay there around 22%. But the first like kind of sexy scene is 45% in when she's drunk and she pulls her dress up and gets stuck, and he comes in and she's like in her bra and panties, and he's like, white cotton panties. And
gross.
And
never needed to
and
see
he's
that.
not polite eye fucking her. And then he does his little tattoo strip tease where he's like, let me show you all my tats, and it's like yuck. And then they have a very tame kiss in bed, which, mind you, they're both hammered, so it's like good on you, like not taking this further or whatever else. But then they have like the first nipple achy treehouse makeout numero uno at 50% in.
And it's just making out, right? Like they don't bone for a while.
Yeah, he goes climbing down from a treehouse with a boner is hard. and they're getting to know each other more and more over the thing. And then 54% treehouse 2, the sexoning is what I called it. He fingers her. I call it magic fingers. Presto orgasmo.
The visual on watching you like do the spirit fingers there was quite something. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and expert hand stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's not until like 68% that they actually have like a real full on, like P and V, sex sesh. There's a bunch of mouth stuff before that, and some more makeout sessions in the treehouse. They do a lot of boning in the treehouse.
Yeah.
But yeah, but she's also like experiencing in her first real taste of of college. She's going to parties and she's meeting, new people, and she's kind of breaking out of her shell a little bit. And he's drawing these good qualities out of her, which is nice. It's nice to see.
And she does the same for him. Like you said, he's
she
very
gets him
smart.
studying more. She gets him
applying himself with school.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and that's nice. And then I think too, Jordan and Liam are roommates, and they're like best friends, captain, and I don't know if he's co-captain, but he's like, high up on the team.
He's like his second in command.
Yeah. And so Liam has this whole kind of side story going on. Like he's used as bait for sure in the Jordan, what's her name? Jordan Daisy relationship. But then Liam is like not playing well and nobody can figure out why. And it turns out later, I think you said earlier, like he's bisexual and he has a new boyfriend and they were like on and off. And so he had this whole side story going on. And at one point he like goes off the map,
the radar.
And they like can't find him. And Daisy's like, Jordan just wants to like bone Daisy. And he's like, let's just go home and have sex. And she's like, no, this is your best friend. Like we need to find him. We need to make sure he's okay. And I thought that was like the friendships in this book, I think are really well done and honest too.
And realistic. Yeah.
Yeah. And because then, so Jordan and Liam are they're best friends, and they have a few other friends like scattered in that you hear about. And then Daisy and her roommates are all flower names. It's Daisy, Violet. Oh shit! Now I'm not gonna remember.
I haven't written down here somewhere.
One's Jane, but I don't know why. Mary Jane.
So okay,
but the third one is also a flower, and I'm forgetting what Daisy,
where's
Violet.
I write down? He introduces her. Delilah, Jane, and
Delilah.
Violet.
Wait, is Delilah not a flower? No, it's not a flower.
No.
Okay.
Wrong.
My statement is rescinded. But Violet and Daisy are cousins.
Yeah,
and
Violet and Daisy are cousins and best friends. And Jane, and they all have their own thing. Like Violet's into making dresses, and I think Jane is on the golf team, so she's kind of a jock wealthy too. Yeah, I thought Delilah was the wealthy one.
Somebody has gobs of money and brought 2 bottles of Dom to somebody's birthday party.
And there's a secret backstory to her too. I think she's the 4th book where you find out like where all this money comes from and whatever. No spoilies for that one.
Oh, okay. You're tempting all the listeners to read the whole series.
Yeah, I like these books a lot. So I'm like, yeah, for sure. But just to get out of the way, some of the funny lines that I wrote down.
Please share your notes.
There's at one point where Violet is yelling up to Daisy when she's in the treehouse, like peeping on this party. And she's like, "Get down before you get airborne. Before you get an airborne STD." I was like, that made me laugh pretty good. And then Jordan and Daisy are hanging out in a tutoring session, and maybe they're drinking or they're doing something. And he's like, "You have to ease into being as awesome as me. Maybe try getting a polite hand job at a party or something." And I was like, telling Daisy like how to be cool, and I'm like, okay, you got to ease into it.
Yeah.
And then her yelling, "I'm not a virgin" at her first like big party made me laugh. It was like one of those record scratch moments. And then Daisy tells Jordan, You're more charming naked," and I was that one just made me laugh. But and there was a lot of sniffing in this book too. By the way, I don't know if you noticed that.
No,
like when she goes up to Liam in their first lab, she like smells him a lot and comments on it, and then she comments on Jordan's smell. She comments on a lot of smells throughout this whole thing.
That didn't stand out to me. And
then Jordan like. Oh, where's the line here? I have it written down. When they're first like going all the way.
He sniffs her underwear.
68% treehouse beaver hunt is what I called it. And then I go, he takes a hit of her panties like anesthesia in the OR.
Yes. That whole line could have been removed, and I would have been happy. I never needed to have the
man.
visual of him sniffing her like white granny panties that she wore because he like liked them the first night. White cotton panties.
Yeah.
Never.
Oh
needed
man.
that.
And I mean, it was very college, you know, like you were saying, it was very reminiscent of just not my college experience per se, but the feelings and the parties and stuff like that. I was like, oh, okay, I remember going to like some in Dayton when they shut down whole streets and we had block long parties and all kinds of stuff. Like,
oh yeah, well, and you were even there. Like your freshman year, you guys partied harder. So the ghetto was what they called the student neighborhood. When you were there, that was outlawed. When I followed, I followed you 2 years later, but by the time I got there, they had like outlawed all the ghetto merch. You could like no longer buy campus sanctioned merch that said ghetto on it. They like University of Dayton bought the entire neighborhood surrounding it. So all of the houses around it were on campus, essentially like owned by the school. And so the better grades you had, the better house you got. You lived in an apartment.
Yeah.
I had very smart roommates, and so we lived right in the middle of Lowe's, which was awesome, like a very fun party street.
Yeah,
but it was all I could think of. Like as they're visualizing like the White House and like their house next door, and then Liam and Jordan lived in the dorm. Like I was visualizing Dayton's campus like the whole time.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
And then they would talk to all the like games that they played. It was like Century Club and Flip Cup and Fuck the Dealer and like all of the games that we played.
For sure.
That's why I was also impressed. I think there's new games now. Like I don't know if the kids
when I went back for my 15 year
20.
reunion.
I don't know which one you went back for.
No, I didn't go back for 20. It was 15, I think, because it was or maybe it was 10. Must have been 10. There was some game where you bounced a ball into a solo cup, and another person was playing next to you, and you slapped the cup out from under him. If you get yours in first, you can smack the cup out from underneath them. We had so much fun playing that game.
That game has a lot of names. We called it Boom. In our we called it so I don't know if that was like Dayton thing or just our friends, because then when I moved to Chicago we played, that was like a fun early 20s game here, and which sucked a lot more to like clean up your own house anyway, but so it was Boom, but I think it has a million different names.
That sounds familiar to me.
It did make me like yearn for the days of like, I was looking for this episode. I was like, I need to wear a sweatshirt that says like Dayton on it, and like, so I feel like a co-ed. I was like, I'm not wearing makeup. I'm gonna like go to class, like go to this thing like just like in college, like no makeup, wearing a UD sweatshirt. But I don't have any. I must have gotten rid of them all. So that was a sad day. But I wore red in the spirit of Dayton.
Yeah. I'm still wearing Cardi B, you know.
That's your outfit.
And the other thing, the only other thing that I was like, everyone had their niche, you know, even when we went to school. But I didn't know anyone that dressed up in fucking Regency period dresses and like watched Darcy on the weekends and everything else. So the four roommates are all unique. Like all dress up in Regency, you know, bustiers and dresses, and they watch, you know, Mr. Darcy or whatever the fuck that movie is,
Pride and Prejudice,
and they do.
This is actually a big plot point that we haven't really discussed. There was the wallflower ball or something that the roommate Violet, her cousin, did created this huge ball for all of these like non-Greek, non-jock people, like everyone who was just normal. They wanted to have the left-outers. They wanted like a party. Well, yeah, people who weren't in those specific niches. So they weren't jocks, they weren't Greek. So they wanted them to have like a big ball for them. And so Violet planned this whole thing. It was a big to-do, and that's what like they would get all dressed up for, which I definitely had. I guess I was in Greek life, but we had like dress up dances and stuff. But they weren't Regency, that's for sure.
And when you find out all about her backstory too, where she's like
Violet's backstory.
Violet's backstory, but also Daisy's, where they, where her parents are fucking super smart people. She barely had candy as a kid, and so like there's this whole candy element to the story where it's like they're playing dress up, and he leaves Fun Dip on her front porch because she's never had it before.
Candy necklace got sexual.
Oh yeah, and I'm kind of like the first time he leaves her Fun Dip with like a little note card, I'm like, all right, that's a little swoony, for a college kid. But like when she got super mad at him later in the book, he like leaves he bought out the whole gas station's candy aisle and leaves it on her front porch. I'm like, all right, dude, come on, fuck off.
Oh, I would still love that, and and let Ben know the next time I get
take note, hubby.
Yeah, super mad at my husband. Just buy out the candy aisle at 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
and everything will be okay.
And he grabs her at the bowl. So the bowling there's a couple scenes at the bowling alley too.
Those are fun.
And that's another instance where like he's still trying to like get her together with Liam, even though Jordan's jealous of Liam and her liking Liam, but she's totally like sniffing him when he lifts her up and spins her around. She like takes a big whiff, and she's already interested in him, and her crush is gone on Liam. But they're not talking to each other about any of this stuff. So it's like, okay, he doesn't realize that she likes him. He likes her, but he's unwilling to really admit it to himself. And he's still trying to like play up this. And then he's feeling guiltier and guiltier about not telling Liam that he likes her until Liam finally finds them. And
they're
he's like,
they've been hooking up for a while. And then Liam walks in on them.
Yeah, making out, but I don't think they've boned yet.
No P in the V before Liam knew. But still, I mean, they were intimate.
Yeah, there's been some nipple aching and some hand stuff. And I was like, for a guy that wants to keep this away from his best friend and roommate, they're not doing a very subtle job at staying sly. Like, they're making out all over campus. There's 58% in. They're sucking face in the library. Library face suckery is what I called that one. And they're making out in his room. He's literally taking her into his room while he has friends over. I'm like, you're not being very subtle, even though you're like super guilty about stealing your friend's chick. Like, all right, that was kind of.
I will say, as much as I enjoyed this book, it felt very like palate cleanser, like a quick, easy romance. There's no like deep, dark surprises in this one. No undercurrent of menace, that's for sure. But
no menace, for sure.
No menace, but like sometimes it just felt like some of these things were convenient. Like Jordan was really he couldn't figure out his own thing. It didn't feel. Just felt stupid. Like it didn't feel smart. Like not smart, but. I don't know. Can't put my finger on it. Maybe it'll make more sense. But like that. So that was the beginning when how they like got together, and then the big low point. And we can hold up and come back to this. But the big low point, he essentially like tells her, "Okay, I actually was trying to get you to go out with Liam, but then I started to like you, and so." This is how like it all came together. And he's honest with her about how like everything started, and she like didn't like it. She got pissed and then left, and as she's like leaving, he shouts, "But I love you." And it's come on.
That was so dumb. Throwing out an I love I literally have a note. Jordan throwing out an I love you in an effort to stop her from leaving. Real smooth.
That was cringe.
Dude. Yeah, but very cringe. But also But real.
But real. True. As I read it, I was like, come on, dude, don't do that. But also, if you're 21 fucking years old and you're like trying to figure out all this stuff, like he thought it was honest. So yeah, I think, they definitely did not have wisdom beyond their years, which I appreciate. It was correct to like, being 2021 in this time frame.
And he does have trauma. His best friend who did not go to college passed away, after his freshman year, or on Christmas break of his freshman year or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm going to live life to the fullest. I'm going to party and have my friends and play my sport. And he's been drafted by the Kings already.
Yeah,
and,
that was cool.
He's doing, he's living life to the extreme, and grades don't matter. And she gets him to kind of rethink some of that stuff. And I mean, I think the bigger, to me, the bigger down low moment of the book was the fight between Violet and Daisy, more so than Jordan and Daisy.
Yeah.
Mainly because she so the Wallflower Ball, which Violet has been, Hitler-esque in setting up, has sprung a leak in their event center where they were going to host it. And so Daisy goes, I got this. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to set it up. And she ends up setting it up next door in the White House, where lo and behold, Violet's ex-boyfriend, Violet's ex-boyfriend, who she hates, who ruined her, who literally broke her heart, Gavin, is living. And so Violet's like, how could you do this to me? How could you do this? Which also, ungrateful bitch. Like, Daisy did everything in her power to make this night special, and you and your hang-ups really ruined the night. But they have a huge, week-long, they're not talking to each other, they're avoiding each other in the house and everything else. That felt like a much bigger moment of badness than...
It was sad to see them.
Than the whole, Jordan and Daisy thing. But, finally, after, 2 weeks of not talking or whatever... Violet and Daisy have a very therapeutic talk and kind of work everything out. And Violet apologizes for her hang-ups on their relationship, and they kind of figure some of their stuff out, and then they decide to throw a huge party themselves at their place. With none of this, heavy setup that Violet was really militant about. And that's kind of where the grand gesture begins, I guess.
Yeah. Liam starts, he texts her, so he's honest with her. She
Jordan,
gets mad.
you said Liam.
Sorry, Jordan is he's on the low point, so she leaves. He shouts I love you, and then he sends her a million text messages to say I'm so sorry, but then he cuts himself off at 20 text messages. He's like, I can't do more than that.
1,020,000? Little different, Smelly.
You know what I mean. A lot of texts. I'm being dramatic for it.
20 unread in a row could be 1 million.
That's what it feels like. So he stopped texting, and then he was just quiet for a while, and she was all butthurt, and then they ran into each other on campus, and she was nice to him, kind of just she wasn't a total bitch, and he was like, she still likes me. I have to win her back. What am I missing?
I think it wasn't niceness per se. It was more that she didn't even notice that Liam and the other guy were even standing there, and her whole focus was on him. And because she got more angry about him potentially ruining her chances with Liam than she was about him not needing tutoring or anything else. And so he was like, oh, well, she must just not like me anymore. She's not responding to anything. And that's when he kind of realizes, oh, she was only looking at me. She only focused on me, that he was really like, oh, I think she still likes me. I think there's a shot. And then he really jacks it up to to
every
10
day there's gifts, there's letters,
horrible drawings and flowers.
Some weird shit, but he's working really hard to get her back. And then I think
and Liam lays down the law with Jordan too. Jordan goes out and gets super hammered, and Liam slaps him in the hall. And
I love that.
Hey,
up against
get
the
your
wall.
Shit together, dude. And because he was like, it's not worth it. I wish I never met her. And he smacks the crap out of him and goes, stop talking shit, dude. You're an idiot. And then they kind of have the awkward coffee shop run-in where he's like, she still likes me, and and then the chain of grand gestures start.
Yeah.
So I have those. Let me just make sure that I'm not missing a sex scene in here. Oh yeah, we're 74% in.
Phew, yeah.
Dorm room dong delivery. The alliteration is key.
Is that when there's pizza delivered?
Yeah, they have pizza delivered pretty much every time they're in the dorm room.
It's my favorite part of the entire book. All I could think about was Cousin Vinny's.
Cousin Vinny's $5 pizzas.
Well, there was the Big 10 or whatever, and so you'd get two pizzas.
Two pizzas and breadsticks with two drinks for $10.
Two drinks. Maybe, was it one pizza or was it two pizzas? I think it was two pizzas.
I thought it was two pizzas. Yeah,
yeah.
2 pizzas, breadsticks, and two drinks for $10.
When I went back for my last reunion, we ordered Cousin Vinny's like to the corner of Lowe's and right by.
It's so gross.
It was so bad, and I was pregnant at the time, and so I was dead sober. It's like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm like dead sober, but like housing Cousin Vinny's because I was pregnant, and I was like, "This is so good."
When I went back for my 10-year, I did the same thing. I ordered. I when the guys got home because they went to Tim's, and I hate Tim's.
I'm aware.
But I went there because everyone was going there, so I was like, fine. And then I'm like, I hate this. So I left early, and I ordered Cousin Vinny's to who was I staying with? I think it was Pittsburgh Mark. I was staying at his place because he lives there now, and John Macon showed up, and maybe I shouldn't have said his full name, but whatever. And she showed up like 20, 30 minutes after me, and I was like halfway through a Cousin Vinny's pizza and half an order of breadsticks, and he's like, "Did you get the Big 10?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, dude, come and sit down." And he's like,
"Here's a drink."
Everybody else gets home, and we're just housing pizza, and yeah, it was
it's like such a I think I've gone to all of my reunions. I love reunions. I think Mom and Dad always went to their college reunions, so in my brain I was like, well, of course, why wouldn't you go? It's such a fun experience. And so, but there was one time where I had a similar experience where like me and my friend Kate were like, you know what, we don't want to be at the bar anymore. We went and sat on the front porch of our old house that's locked. There was nobody living there. We just sat on the front porch and ordered Cousin Vinny's to the front porch of this house that we couldn't even go inside. And we waited and got it delivered. And then like our friends are like an hour later, like walking home from the bars, and we're like laying on our old porch, just like eating pizza. They're like, "You guys left and ordered pizza without us?" We were like, "God, shit, hide the evidence." We were like, "Don't share the breadsticks."
Oh man, when I was there, we had been drinking all day. We were just walking around the neighborhood and stopping at any party that would have us, as we did when we were freshmen.
Truly.
And then we went to the alumni tent because they were having free drinks there.
Yeah.
And we went, and at some point I just got, I was like, I've had too much to drink, so I walked out into the field right there near the gym or whatever, near the soccer fields where they had set up the big tent, and I just laid down in the grass and like looked up at the sky, and it was like just laying there, and like the amount of people, this is Midwest niceness, that walked by and were like, "Hey, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yep, just drunk." And they're like,
it's my least favorite. Listen,
are you
all
right?
Pull that shit all the time. You love to wander off and lay down and look at the stars. It is my biggest pet peeve of drunk Ned. You did it at Maggie's wedding on the golf course. You've done it so many times, and it is infuriating because it genuinely looks like you're like going out to just die. Like
in
like,
London, when we were at the Leicester Square, when I laid down the opposite way on the stairs.
No, that story needs like a true. This was Ned studying abroad, college, right? Summer between junior, senior year.
Yeah.
My parents and I go visit. I'm staying with Ned in his dorm, like with his friends during this study abroad thing. And we go out, and it's like, we go to some like American bar in
like Joe's
London.
American or something.
Yeah. And it had like 4 floors, and each floor was something different. And like, I think I was 18 or 19. I was definitely not 21, but I think the drinking age and whatever is 19.
It's 18 or something.
So at one floor of the bar, Craig, your roommate, gave me his credit card and was like, "Go get drinks at the bar." So I go, I start ordering drinks, and I'm like feeling so cool. I'm like, "Here's my credit card," and they're like, "Are you Craig?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You're clearly not Craig. Like, this is not your credit card. And I was like, fine. And I had to like go back to the group and like get Craig and be like, hey, can you actually come sign for these? Like, they wouldn't take it from me. And he was like, fine. I'm sure he was trying to mac on some girl or something. And I was like, hey, can you come do this? So then we're all very, very drunk at this bar. You disappear. And like most of like all of your like UD friends are like, we haven't seen him in a while. I'm like, gosh darn it, I'm gonna find him. I march up the stairs into the men's room, and I put on my best British accent. I'm like, hello, have you seen me brother? There's like an attendant in this bathroom. Like, dude, like, what the fuck? And so then he actually was like, I don't know, there's been a guy in this one for a long time. And so like you finally, I think you hear me somehow, some way you like come out.
I heard your voice, I think. And I'd been throwing up for like a half an hour.
And so you finally come out of the stall that you were in. You were like, let's go. It's time to go home.
Well,
so,
I threw a pocket full of coins at the guy, and like, who knows how much
coins,
money I gave him.
Yeah,
because there's pounds over there. So it was like, I could have potentially thrown like $20 at this dude. I mean, he deserved it considering how much I threw up in that bathroom.
Yes, and how much work he probably did. So we, as college kids are wont to do, we travel as this group. There's probably like, I don't know, 10 or 12 of us, and we're walking to Helen's Kebab Shop, which was right by your dorm, and we not gotten there yet.
We had to get the bus because we had to get Leicester Square. Leicester Square happened before that.
So we had
to get the bus.
So we were walking to the bus, whatever, to get home to get Helen's Kebabs, and so I'm like, and I think a couple of my like good friends were studying abroad with you. So I was like walking ahead and I was walking with other people and I was like, isn't that right, Ned? And I turn around and you're just gone. And there's just there's nobody behind us. There's just nothing. And I was like, where the fuck did he go? And
Ghost protocol.
Just ghost. And finally I'm like, Ned? And we look up the stairs of this monument. I mean like at like 25 stairs up this giant monument, and you are all the way up at the top, but like sitting down and then laying down backwards.
Yeah,
like
the wrong way down the stairs.
Wrong way. Your head was like down the stairs. We were like, how did you get all the way up there and then sitting down and laying down the wrong way so fast? So it was like
sneaky.
Comedy of errors, like Craig and I remember our friend Lauren, like there were so many people like, all right, let's try and get Ned up and get him on the bus. And so we get home and then we get to this fucking Helen's Kebab Shop and we'd all been drinking for so long. And I was like, oh my God, I want a fucking chicken mild sauce kebab. It's all I wanted. And so like you could only send one person in or whatever. So I was like, okay, Ned will go in, get my order, get 2 kebabs, one for yourself, one for me. This motherfucker comes out with 2 spicy
lamb
that I was like, I can't eat this. It was so terrible. You're like, I'll eat it. I was like, your plan all along was to get both of these for yourself. And then I passed out in the living room, like under a table or something.
Yeah. It was a good night.
It was great. I mean, we are still telling the story like 20 years later. Not quite.
We had a great time.
That was one of our more epic nights.
Yeah, you were counting a couple years ago to somebody how trying to hold me up while walking to the bus was one of the hardest things you've ever had to do in your life. Made me
harder
laugh.
Than childbirth.
Made me laugh a lot. Oh, college memories. Thank you, Rebecca Jenshak, for allowing us to recount these memories.
I mean that one in particular is one of my favorite. I mean that one was just so good.
The one scene in here that like semi reminded me of one of your stories, where during the whole grand gesture marathon events, I'll run through them and then I'll tell you the one that reminded me of you. So the grand gesture, he delivers her the flower and his horribly drawn picture. He delivers her a huge box of candy.
Yep,
He puts string lights up in their F shack up in the treehouse. Mm-hmm. Then there's the beefcake parade with daisies where he gets all his hockey teammates. That's the one that reminds me of you, where they put you on a fucking couch and march you down the street. I was like, that definitely reminds me of
so good. That story, that was, and I had nothing to do with that. That was my 21st birthday. And at the time on MTV, there was a TV show called My Sweet 16, and they would show these parties of just like these 60, like getting cars for their, anyway, I'm sure that show doesn't exist anymore, but so that it was on, we were in college, so everybody who had a birthday was like my sweet 21. And so for my sweet 21, my roommates, we went out to dinner. Mom and dad were in town, we went out to dinner, and while we were at dinner, my roommates had set up, so some of our guy friends came over and took this like super lightweight foam couch that we had in our living room and took it to their house and then covered it in like this like fabric. And then our friends were like, oh, here, we're just going to give you guys these like Zorro masks. And that's, just, we're going to bring Helen in, put her on the couch. And if you guys could just carry the couch down the block, like that. And she'll wave and it'll be like my Sweet 16. I think there was an actual Sweet 16 like episode where they did something like that. And so we show up and the Moon Tower boys, like they are still friends of mine and they're just the best humans in the world. And so they also decided beyond the Zorro mask, they were all going to go shirtless as well.
Yep. Nips out. And so my friends, I got home from dinner. It did not even occur to me that we were just missing a full couch from our living room. I was just like, I don't know. I just didn't even notice it was gone. And they're like, we have to show you something. It's down the block. And they hadn't told mom and dad, or they'd told mom and dad, like, get your camera ready, but they didn't tell them what it was. And so they like marched me down the block to the Moon Tower and go to the backyard. And those 6 guys are just standing there shirtless with Zorro masks on. And it was great. And then like, it's like I think it was a Friday night in Dayton or whatever. So just tons in September. So like, you're back in school. Everybody's out in their front yards partying, and it was just a wild. There are still photos of it. We should not go into it, but I think it was your 19th birthday, maybe, where you invited half of campus to your party, and the party went on for 4 houses in either direction.
Yeah,
and
I got
we
in
had
trouble.
to start. We had I think it was 20, or we had 6 kegs. 40 cases of beer and ran out in the first 2 hours of the party and had to go buy 40 more cases of beer.
Anybody I saw, I was like, hey, it's my birthday this weekend. Come to this address on
and I was
Kefeber.
Finally, I'm like, hey, do you know her middle name? Like, can you even tell me who the birthday girl is?
Do you know my middle name?
Yeah.
Don't say that. Oh my God.
Anyone who wants to steal her identity.
I know, truly.
But so the grand gestures continue with he gets
Let's
the girls.
just keep telling our own college stories.
Yeah. He gets the girls on his side, which was, I thought, okay, first Violet kind of reaches out to him and he wins her over, and then he gives her the big treehouse speech again. Mm-hmm. And then the night of the party redo Boner Blast, mm-hmm. And they do the MILF hat callback, which I loved.
Yeah, that was good.
And then the pretty much the rest of the book after that is all setting up book 2.
Yes, they do. They spend so much of this book setting up the Gavin and Violet story. It actually started to annoy me. I do,
but they had to do that because you had to know why Violet was so pissed at the party getting moved over there.
That's true.
If you don't know the vehemence that she has for hating
Gavin,
then it wouldn't make sense that she had such a big reaction to it.
All right,
so I mean,
fine, fine.
They harped on it a little too much, but I get it.
You are a real Rebecca Jenshak
but then
defender. Okay.
98%. We're literally, nip-tip away from being done with the book, and the campsite conolingus is interrupted by Violet and Gavin being thrust into the same tent together on this camping trip, and oh no. What's going to happen there?
Oh, I wonder. I would like to visit the epilogue. Do you have something prior to the epilogue that you would like to discuss?
No, I just have that I just have my notes on the epilogue. Because that's literally the last scene. They scream. They look out. Violet and Gavin argue, and then like it's the epilogue. It's like,
and then it's the epilogue. It's 5 years later, and this bitch is fucking pregnant, and it's so. It's fine. It's fine. It's 5 years later, and I'm happy for them. They were like gonna wait whenever she's taking her birth control. They get pregnant. Her boobs really hurt, and he goes to like bite her nipple.
Bigger boobs.
And that was just like, so it was like, okay, fine. But then like she had peed on a stick, and then they like go out in the backyard, and they're like, we're pregnant, we're having a baby, and I was like, that's just not realistic. Like that's not how. I mean, you are and to like tell like friends and people that like. I was like, okay, nobody does that. Like, you at least wait a little bit until you have, like, confirmation. I don't know. Whatever. I thought that annoyed me. I was like, Rebecca.
Yeah, I know. Well,
it's just not realistic.
I know.
But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I thought so, too. You know,
Ned just gave me feedback that I'm fingering my mic stand.
I'm like, I can hear you fingering the mic stand down there.
I'm fingering the cord, so I apologize. I will finger my pen instead.
Touch tips. The married and pregnant in the epilogue, which I'm like, okay, and then the them walking out and doing that, I'm like, yeah,
that was annoying.
That was
whatever.
A little, like
it's
whatevs.
Fine. Maybe some people do that.
But would you recommend this book?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say no. I think of all the books. Well, that's not true. I said no to 50 Shades. I don't know. It's enjoyable. I enjoy it.
Because this is your first read. This is your first virginal read of this one.
Virginal? I'm not a virgin. I enjoyed it. It felt like a palate cleanser. It felt very light and fluffy, and not like a heavy hitter. I'm probably not going to remember this. Even reading it, I was getting confused. Like you were talking about something earlier, and I was like, no, that happened in a different book, but it's not. It was this book, and so I think I would recommend it if you are interested. I personally, I'm curious what happens with Gavin and Daisy, but also like, you kind of already know, like they're going to figure it out and make up. So I don't feel like a driving passion to read the rest of the series like you do. Yeah, I mean, if you're really looking for something. Also, it was a great length. It was 9 hours to listen to. I didn't check the page count, but it was a great length for what I was looking for right now. So that was really nice. Would you recommend it? I mean, you liked it and read the whole series twice.
Yeah, now. I've read this book twice. I've read this entire series and another series based at the same college.
Okay.
And I liked those too, but it is as mentioned, not the undercurrent of menace. There's not that added level of danger or whatever is going on. But it like we recounted a bunch of our funny college stories. It did.
That's true.
Allow me to reminisce a lot and allow me to be a little more thoughtful about what other people might have been going through in their love lives in college. Not really, but it
connoisseurs of cunnilingus.
Yeah, the beaver hunting in tree houses. But it was, I enjoyed her writing. I thought her writing was good. I thought she put a story together relatively well. There were elements of it that I did not love. There wasn't too much dirty talk in this.
Yeah.
They didn't really have.
That's fine for me. That's A+ in my book.
They're witty. They had a little bit of witty banter back and forth, but I think she put together a good story. I think she put together an enjoyable listen and or read, and I would absolutely recommend it to somebody. Much like we were like Butcher and Blackbird, we can only recommend to certain people. I would say this is a book that you could arguably recommend to anyone and have them be like, hey, it's pretty open door. It's not too open door. There's not too much crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
And the subject matter being in college is the only kind of deal breaker for what and who you can. like right now, would I recommend this book to like mom and dad? Maybe not, but they had a great college experience too. So like
they were way worse than we were. Like we got drunk and we got ourselves into some shenanigans, but they were worse. They were worse. There were drugs in the 70s.
They were in the 70s.
Yeah, like mom talks about this story where she's going to kill me for sharing this, but they're like crossing train tracks and they're like drunk and they get on the train and they're like, oh, there's like an open train car and they're like, oh, we just have to go through the train and get to the other side and through the woods to get to this party. And they like climb onto the train and then by the time they get off on the other side, they're like 3 blocks further down and they were like, that train was moving the whole time. They had no idea. They were so drunk they had no idea this train was like actively moving. And they were like, oh, and so I'm like, yeah, you guys did some way worse shit than we did. I don't know. Not that that's not their worst story. That's actually a pretty tame one. But like,
well, yeah, because we're gonna have to cut anything else out of the podcast.
Yeah, mom will actually shoot us if we talk anymore about her college experience. But they, and I think what I loved so much is like, growing up, our parents were such close friends with their college friends. They still travel together. They're still like so close. They were almost like aunts and uncles to us in a lot of ways. And so I knew that going into college for me. And so like finding really good friends, and I'm still really good friends with like and I know you're friends with your friends from college. So like, I feel like our parents set a really great example for us of like, they loved their college experience. And then, so I feel like we went to UD and found our friends too, and it worked out great. So, yeah.
Good times. Neither of us died.
Good memes. Yeah.
we made it through almost unscathed.
We did not become crack whores, which was really
a couple of burn marks and maybe a broken toe here or there, but we made it. We made it through pretty much unscathed.
Yes.
Maybe some CTE from all the can crushing.
Oh my god, I forgot you did that, Ned. That explains so much.
Why I'm so good at podcasting. Do you know what we have coming up next week?
Yes.
Do you?
Well, is it broken French?
As you whisper behind your hands into a microphone.
Is it broken French?
It is Broken French by Natasha Boyd.
Yes! Oh my gosh, I love this book.
I have not read this one. This is
it?
another
Oh
virginal reading for me.
Oh my god, enjoy. You're going to want to go to Europe so bad after you read it.
And I see you have it written as medium spice.
Yeah.
Medium burrito.
I think it's I mean I haven't read it in 2 or 3 years.
What would you list this book as on the list? The Tutoring the Player.
What is below medium?
Tame? Well, on your list there's tame, medium plus, and spicy.
Tame plus, tame medium minus, medium. Because the sex scenes are sexy.
Yeah, you could get a book boner.
You could.
I mean, it happens late in the game, but you could.
Yeah, you could get a book boner.
And when you have Broken French listed as medium as well.
Medium plus. There's some real sexy scenes. I just think we can talk about it. Okay, gross. Oh, you are disgusting. But this book, it's set in Europe, and she is like an au pair for this little girl in Europe, and it's just the way that they describe the scenery. Oh my gosh. And she's on like a fucking Beyonce type yacht. I mean, I loved it. I'm very curious to hear.
Stop chasing all over it until we actually get the podcast going.
Read it. Everybody should go read it for next week. Broken French, Natasha Boyd.
Natasha Boyd, coming up.
Glad I got it right. I was worried that I was whispering the wrong thing.
Well,
okay.
If you're liking our bullshit, if you're generally laughing at our stupid jokes, please hit that like button, rate, review, subscribe, all that fun shit. Generally, shower us with praise.
Yes. Thank you.
We've told you, Broken French, Natasha Boyd, coming up next week.
Yep.
Thank you for listening, Smutters.
That's all we got. Stay smutty.
Stay smutty.
Stay smutty.
And out.